Welcome to the Porn Reboot Podcast, where you get practical tips to gaining control over your porn or sex addiction. We help ambitious men end their out-of-control sexual behavior with pornography, sex, and masturbation so that you can maximize your life, perform at your potential, and remain in control in the driver's seat, which is where you have to be in order to gain or maintain the success you want in life. I'm your host, J.K. Emezi, certified sex and porn addiction recovery coach. Welcome to the episode. Today we're going to talk about how to deal with feelings of apathy towards the reboot process when you're trying to end your behavior with pornography and masturbation. Now, apathy is something which a lot of men run into. We often decide that we are going to take this seriously. We know that there's pain. We know that this behavior is having a serious impact on our life. And so it can be quite frustrating when you get to the point where you just don't give a shit about rebooting. You don't care about doing the things which are necessary. I want you to know that apathy is quite literally a part of the process. In fact, if a man is going through the reboot process and does not experience apathy at some point, something is wrong. So to make this easier, I picked a question from one of the brothers in our implementation group, and I'm going to be answering it right here on this podcast. So his question is, after doing the feelings exercise, which is an exercise we have in the program, for a solid while, I've observed that a strong emotion I encounter, which tends to lead to a slip or an unproductive day for me, is apathy. It's a very constant factor where I don't feel like doing anything and where nothing feels like it matters. Does anyone have any advice on how I can work on dealing with this? How do I snap myself out of the pit of apathy that I tend to fall into? Now, again, I always got to give shout outs to the awesome brothers. I won't say their name for privacy reasons. We are a discreet service, but there are some fantastic brothers who really took the time to drop paragraphs of feedback, which I learned a few things from them myself. That's one of the benefits of the implementation and the intensive program. You have these guys who are ahead of you, but they're not as far as I am. They're not like 14 years deep like I am, but they're close enough to the problem to give you valuable feedback. And there are not many groups that you can go to where there are a lot of experienced men who are further ahead in the game. So my response is basically to this brother's question is that apathy usually begins the moment that you start experiencing a challenge, which you realize it might take a while to overcome this challenge. So think about it. What are the things you get apathetic about? Are they things that you actually don't care about? No. They're usually things you care about, but they might take a little time for you to learn how to accomplish that specific goal. In essence, it's often an avoidance mechanism. So the first thing to do is to find out the thing within your reboot which is triggering apathy. So how do you do that? Well, an easy way to do that is as you go through your reboot, when you're experiencing apathy, at any point, find out where you mentally tell yourself that you cannot do something. I'll say it again. Find out once you start experiencing apathy, find out where is it in the process that you start telling yourself that you can't do something. Maybe it's you don't have the willpower. You're like, I can't muster up enough willpower to do this. I can't possibly overcome these urges and do this on a day-to-day basis. You know, one of the things we teach in our program is a very deep level of self-awareness where you begin to identify emotions. And sometimes, because most men who are struggling with this out of control behavior, your emotions are frozen at a certain point. At that point in your life where your specific emotions were frozen, that was where you started using pornography and other behaviors to medicate those emotions instead. So when you realize through our program that you have to keep identifying these emotions, that might be a little bit challenging. It is not easy. That's why we have a very specific process to help you do so. And we have guys who they could have spent years with a therapist, but now they can learn how to identify emotions which would have taken them years to identify in weeks and in some cases months. So maybe you're doing that and you tell yourself, you know what, I can't possibly do this every day, or I can't really control my urges. Once you've identified where the I cannot do this belief is, the next step is to realize that behind that belief that you cannot do that, or that statement that you cannot do that, is a refusal to do it. Here's what I mean. There's I can't, but the truth is we all have a choice. At some point, before that I can't came about, there was a tiny I won't. Let's say you had to wake up early in the morning to do something out of your reboot coping strategies, which is part of your morning routine. And while you don't have a problem doing it, you don't want to wake up a little bit earlier to do that because you already have a set pattern of doing things. And so you're like, I won't. Maybe you come back from work after a very long day at work and you don't really want to face your family. You just want to veg out. You want to do your own thing. So you go to your office or get in front of your computer on your phone and you feel that you deserve something for going through such a stressful week. And the thing you deserve is, of course, pornography or whatever else that might lead to pornography, watching a movie, YouTube, just fucking around on social media, whatever the case may be. But you realize that you have a very strong urge and that you have to put pen to paper to complete one of those exercises. That's where the statement comes up. It's not that you can't do the exercise. It's you won't do the exercise. I don't want to do it. I don't want to put pen to paper. There's no dopamine that I get from putting pen to paper. So I won't do it. Well, what happens when this happens repeatedly? 4 days out of the week, you come back at the end of the day, you veg out, you're about to view pornography. You know what you should do, but you don't want to do it because it's uncomfortable. And you tell yourself you won't. You won't, you won't, you won't. All you're doing is you're building up proof that you cannot do something. That's all you're doing. You're proving to your unconscious mind, I will not, I will not, I will not, I will not. Eventually, your subconscious mind turns it into I cannot do it because I have so much proof that I have not done it for many days. That is how the brain works. Another example could be something like, you know what? I can't do all of the things required in this reboot system because, you know what? Frankly speaking, I don't have the willpower. That could actually be, I won't do it because I'd rather do something else. That would be what the I won't to that specific I can't would be. And that is how you fall into the process of apathy. It's not that you don't give a shit. There is a process behind it. And even as you listen to this podcast episode, you might easily just gloss through this and move on to the next one. But the truth is, there is no other way to get around this in a permanent way. I know that there are other tips on how to escape apathy out there, but none of them bring you back to the reality that there is something that you will not do. An awareness of the fact that when you will not do something, it eventually becomes I cannot do it is so important because this will serve you not just in your reboot, my brother. This will serve you in every aspect of your life. This is not how to overcome apathy just for your out of control behavior. It is how to overcome apathy for everything that you don't feel like doing in life, but is relevant. So, brothers, I hope you found that helpful on a very simple way to overcome apathy during your reboot and, of course, in your life as well. I'm JK, your brother in this struggle. Thank you so much for listening to this episode of the Porn Reboot podcast. I'll speak to you later on in the week. If you found this episode helpful, here are 4 ways I can help you with your out-of-control sexual behavior for free. The first way is to grab a free copy of my book, Confessions of a Porn Addict, 7 Secrets of Porn-Free Men at elevatedrecovery.org or visit the link in the description below this episode. The second way is, if you're not sure where to start, but you'd like to learn more about my team and I, if you'd like to spend time with like-minded professionals and business owners who are controlling their behavior, then join our free and confidential group, the Porn Reboot Group on Facebook. There's a link to join in the description below this episode. The third way is if you need help right now because you have a burning issue, your behavior with pornography is hurting you mentally or emotionally, you're about to lose your relationship, you want to live up to your potential, be an authentic man, and free yourself from shame, guilt, and underachieving, then click on the link in the description below this episode that says free coaching call. And the fourth way is to leave us a 5-star review if you enjoy this podcast so that we can reach more men who are struggling in silence and bring back the lessons we learn from coaching them to freedom.